Hello, my name's Casey, and I am discussing with myself, because I don't really know anyone else who's questioning themselves in this way, about everything transgender related. I discovered everything transgender about about a year ago in February when I came across, I think it was on Tumblr, and I came across something regarding, I didn't know that this was like a thing. I knew about LGBT, didn't really know much about the T, but that I learned that people were transitioning. When I first stumbled upon the idea, it really resonated with me because this person that was talking was saying like that they related more to everything that was masculine and male, and that after they transitioned into male, they were recognized how they wanted to be recognized. And those things really resonated with me. What I've been questioning is because now that I see that I could have this option, like if I were to go to a gender therapist like I am now and say I wanted to be on testosterone, she wouldn't question me because my reasons are valid. The reason I would want to go on testosterone is because it would decrease the friction in my life. It would make everything flow more easily. I wouldn't feel as though I were uncomfortable or I was making these odd decisions about my style and my behavior and choices and stuff, and other people also wouldn't question it. And not that they do now, that's just it. People talk about dysphoria and hating their body, and I haven't always loved my body. I don't really like taking pictures, but I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think I'm unattractive. I'm not like the hottest person in the world, but I have like general like good physical self-love. I've always had these kind of good things, and I haven't always loved my breasts. I actually thought something was wrong when I was first growing them. I thought there was something up with that. I'm like, what are these? Why do they hurt? What's up with boobs? I've never had a period that hasn't been painful. Actually, the last period I had to go to the emergency room, and so yeah. I have, being a female isn't really easy for me. Like, it's not easy for me socially. It could be easy socially because being a masculine female, there are places in the world for me being that person. Like, I just don't want to be stereotyped as a dyke, because I'm not a dyke. And in a conservative environment, if I were to transition into male in a conservative environment, I would be more easily understood and accepted, whereas now socially people don't really care. Like, I'm not like number one on their list of gonna have an awkward conversation because I don't know how to treat Casey, but but people like are just like, oh well, they have a creative style, or she or he or whatever. Actually have been called they before, and I didn't really agree with it. I'm just like, so what, am I more than one person now? Not dissing anyone that, prefers they or anything. Even though that is kind of funny. Yeah, that is a valid decision, by the way. Yeah, so really me deciding how I want to transition and all that is really dependent on who do I want to surround myself with. Like, I feel as though if I were to transition, I would be putting myself in a place where I would be a very typical guy, and if I weren't to transition, I'd be a unique and kind of eccentric looking female like I am now. The big question is what I'm getting to right now is, even though I am or could be trans, is being a female, not necessarily femininity, but being a female part of my identity. Like, I want to escape being called a dyke. Like, sometimes I have to tell myself just to erase that whole label of, being a female and having masculine qualities. I don't want to look like a dyke. I don't want to look like I sleep with girls, even though I do sleep with girls. But I sleep with girl. But I don't want my sexuality to be part of my identity. And I don't really want gender to be part of my identity. You know, like, these things shouldn't be, like, if I were to connect with people based on sexuality, it's like it's a really shallow, really surface way to meet. Like, say I go and hang out with a bunch of lesbians. These lesbians could have a bunch of interests apart from just liking girls. Like, liking girls is such, like, it's like a vague trait. Just like gender's an even more of a vague trait. If I were to hang out with people that are just men, you know, and they celebrate masculinity, well, that would be, you know, like, how the hell am I going to relate to them? You know what? I went to a female to male, like, group the other day because I was curious. My girlfriend took me there. It was interesting. And like, everyone was there and they're sitting there and everyone is so fucking awkward and shy. And it's like no one knew what to talk about except for, like, sexuality, surgery, changes. And, like, I really wanted to ask, like, these social questions. And I'm like, well, this is what I really want to know is that how did I come to, like, I really wanted to know from them, because these are people that already started their transition. I wanted to be like, how did you come to terms with, you know, it's not necessarily denying your own sex. If you've already accepted it, that's when you can transition and call yourself trans. You know, if they hadn't accepted that they were trans, they wouldn't even be there. But how did they go from being a unique expression of masculinity in a female vessel to being more of a typical expression of masculinity in a male vessel? So, I mean, like, I see all these people who are transgender online, and I look at their pictures, like, beforehand, and, you know, they always try to portray some level of, like, discomfort, and they show a lot of, like, ugly pictures a lot of the time. But, you know, there are pictures where they do look, like, good, where they show, like, some, like, fascinating form of androgyny when they were, like, trying to make their traits work for them. And I'm not saying that being, like, transgender is, like, giving up completely, because the reason that I want, and by the way, there's no shame in surrender, there's actually strength in surrender. But, yeah, I guess that's basically it. The reason I'm interested in everything, in, like, possibly transitioning, is because I used to, like, not have a job or a plan or a career, and now that I'm headed in that direction, and I basically did a complete 180. Like, a year ago, I was high all the time. Like, I didn't have any goals or plans or anything. But yeah, and I didn't have any responsibilities, really. Well, I did, I was ignoring them completely. And now that I'm looking the opposite way, it's like, okay, well, now that I'm going in this direction, I have to establish how I'm going to start presenting myself and things like that. Like, I really don't want to, like, focus so much on how I'm going to be presenting myself, because before I was really specific about what I'd wear. I was, you know, I like I said, I avoid being labeled at all costs, so I didn't really have a structure. I would just wear random things that I liked, which always worked in my favor. But now that I've chosen, like, more masculine clothing, and I pretty much only wear men's clothes now, and I guess I am grateful to have that direction. It's just that I'm wondering, is my path, not even necessarily career, but is my path going to be that of a masculine? Is it going to be a self-identified male? You know what I mean? Or am I going to be a unique expression of a female? But who's to say what is unique and what isn't? You know, like, I feel like the reason people choose a transition is because they don't want to have to worry about being comfortable. You know, they don't want to have to, like, fucking worry about the dysphoria, and they don't want to have to worry about that kind of thing. They just want to get on with their lives. You know, they just want to like what they like because they like it. They don't want to get shit from anyone. So I feel like that is why anyone would want to transition. And the question, when it comes down to me, do I want to have to deal with this kind of things? Am I ready to go with the flow of things? And I think the reason that I'm having so much debate is because no, I'm not ready to go with the flow. You know, every day I take a step closer and like I ask myself new and interesting and fascinating questions about what would I be if this or that, or new perspectives on my own identity and real true self-examination of identity, which is ultimately really surface, but I do a lot of self-reflection anyway. I feel like that's why I don't really talk to people ever, is because I'm very busy trying to catch up on what I had missed out on all those years of getting drunk and high, and really just letting life distract me, basically. So now that I'm really focusing on myself, I'm really catching up, and it's like I can tell that these next few years are going to be a condensed version of my own type of puberty or my own type of growing up into adulthood, because, you know, I had a lot of friends, but in some ways, those friends kind of chose their paths, you know, and they went forward with them. And I had a lot of different friends in a lot of different places. Some of my friends live out in the desert, and they had dreadlocks, and they smoke a lot of weed, and they do meditation circles, and they talk about, you know, the paths of excitement and divinity and all of that stuff, and they rely on the universe to supply for them. Whereas my other half of my friends all went to college and are all working. They're all very busy, and they work really hard to do this. So it's like, I abandoned both groups of friends, except for one friend who is on the busy half. And I don't really have any friends who used to party a lot, and I pretty much avoid all of them. So, I don't know. It's just really interesting, and time will tell where I will be going, but there are women who are masculine. I see artistic, uniquely expressive, masculine women who are straight, you know? Like, show me the straight, artistic-looking women who push limits and who aren't afraid to express themselves. Who aren't afraid to do what they like because, you know, it's not even that. It's just that people who are actually interested in how they look. A lot of people don't want to concern themselves with that, you know? I like being concerned with how I look. It's like, but do I want to be concerned with how I look forever? I think that's really what it comes down to. Transitioning would truly allow me to move forward and drop this, and I just feel not ready to let go of being unique and almost shocking, you know, like I have a tattoo in the back of my neck that says no. I'm like the ultimate form of resistance here. I'm actually getting that tattoo removed. Symbolic. Anyway, so yeah, those are my thoughts about everything transgender and my decision to transition or not. It's a really weird, long, diluted process. And it's, honestly, I want to bang my head against things. Rah! Like, when am I gonna stop being distracted by all this sex and all this appearance and all this gender and just get on with my goddamn life and face my own inner demons? Or maybe this is forcing my inner demons. This is just a cycle. Why do I end my videos on a spastic wave of bleh? Alright, yeah. There's Bella right there. Alright, see y'all later.